All right, part 2, Intro to the Black Legend. You will notice that there's a linked slide deck to complete these fill in the blank sections. So you're going to click this open 1.2 Black Legend. Once you filled it out, you just close the slides. You won't need it again. So we're going to open it up and we're going to toggle between the two. So the Black Legend is Spain's conquest of the New World in memory. So like how people think about and remember Spanish conquest in the New World. So we're looking for the definition of encomienda. Also remember this was a definition from up above, so you could even go scroll up above. It's a system where crown gave the right to demand tribute and for native inhabitants. So you're filling in these blanks. And if I went to encomienda, I would read the system whereby the Spanish crown gave colonists the right to demand tribute and forced labor from the native inhabitants. So you would fill in those blanks. A system where the Spanish crown gave the colonists the right to demand tribute and forced labor for the native inhabitants. So you would fill in those blanks there. We're going to look at agency, the ability of people to their situation. An example, revolt of 1680 drove the Spanish out of Santa Fe for several years. So we're going to take a look at next slide. Agency is the ability for people to change their situation, and the example is Pueblo Revolt of 1680 drove the Spaniards out of Santa Fe for several years. So the ability of people to change their situation, example, the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. Black Legend, the style of writing that is for the empire, as a pathbreaker, the early champion of human rights struggles, a predecessor of MLK and Mandela. So we also see here a distinctive feature of legends is that their veracity, or their intensity, is in some way suspect or suspicious. A legend is a story that someone else believes, and that comes from Charles Gibson's The Black Legend, written in 1969. So what exactly is historical memory? It's this concept of in part, it's how society chooses to remember certain events of the past. Some people remember it really great and grandiose, and other people remember it as terrible and overwhelming. Self-interest is often a powerful motivator for how humans remember the past. If you're part of a group that won, you're going to remember it much more fondly than a group of people that lost. This is even true in sporting events or game shows or anything where there are two sides of something or multiple sides of something. The way the outcome often shades how we retell it and remember it. So again, the Black Legend is a style of writing that is critical, which means hard on the Spanish Empire. Bartholomew de las Casas, it was a path breaker. So he forged a new way. He was an early champion of human rights struggles, and he was a predecessor of Gandhi, so Mahatma Gandhi from India, MLK from here in the US, and Charles Mandela of South Africa. To fill in the Black Legend is a style of writing that is critical of the Spanish Empire. Bartholomew de las Casas, as a pathbreaker, he was an early champion of human rights struggles, predecessor of Gandhi, MLK, Mandela. And then last but not least, the White Legend. So we have an image here of the Black Legend. It's what do we see here, what's happening? And then the White Legend is an approach of history that is, again, uncritical of the Spanish and their conquest of the New World. It's often an idealized view of how great they were. We've also got this image here that is worth looking at and reading the blurb. We'll come back over here. It's an approach of history that is uncritical of the Spanish and their quest. It's often idealized. All right, we're going to scroll down. We see here Bartholomew de las Casas and Juan Ginés de Sepúlveda. We're going to read about them. So this is de las Casas, and we've got this hierarchy of Spanish colonialism. So here's the Spanish, Peninsulares, the Creoles, or aka people of Spanish descent that are both born in Latin America, sort of anywhere within Latin America. Mestizos and mulattoes are people born of mixed origin, half native, half Spanish, or half African, half Spanish, kind of depending on what group you fell into. And then last but not least, we have like labor force that were the natives. So anybody who was like not part of a Spanish hierarchy. As a young man, Bartholomew de las Casas had sailed with one of the first Spanish expeditions to the West Indies in 1502. So shortly after, widely Columbus is like famous or infamous sail to New World. A humane, sensitive priest, he was often repelled by his own countrymen's treatment of the native peoples of the New World. He was also a Spaniard, so he was of the same cultural background of these people, but definitely saw the world in a much different way. And he eventually became a bishop in Guatemala and devoted himself to reforming Spanish colonial policies. So he really worked to change what the Spanish were doing in their colonies, for which he was recognized as the, quote, protector of the Indians. His vivid account in The Destruction of the Indies did much to spread the black legend of Spain's brutal behavior in the New World, a legend not without substance and eagerly exploited by the rival English. So he sent this back and was like, here's what we're doing in our like new colonies, and it's terrible and it's awful. And the English like really grasped a hold of it to talk about how terrible the Spanish were, and of course the Spanish were not a big fan. All right, this next section, part 3, we're going to have a debate. So we're going to read through these two documents, and then you're going to decide like which side you fall on. You're kind of thinking about, is this a black legend? Is this a white legend? How is power being seen here and being viewed? And then there's going to be a couple questions for each side, and then you're going to decide on a poll whose argument is greater. So we're going to go up here and we're going to start with Bartholomew de las Casas, and his side says, so he's writing this is his account, quote, "These people are the most guileless or lacking any wickedness and duplicity, the most obedient and faithful to their native masters and to the Spanish Christians whom they serve. They are also poor people, for they not only possess little, but have no desire to possess worldly goods. For this reason, they are not arrogant, embittered, or greedy. They are very clean in their persons, with alert, intelligent minds, docile and open to Christianity, very apt to receive our holy Catholic faith, to be endowed with virtuous customs, and to behave in a godly fashion." So far, I'm going to pause this right there. So far, he's just talking about, like, how they're nothing like these savage people that the Spanish kind of portrayed them to be. They're not greedy. They don't want things. They're, like, really nice. They're clean. They are actually open to this idea of Christianity that's being spread rather than turning away from it. He continues. "The common ways mainly employed by the Spaniards, who call themselves Christians, and who have gone there to take advantage of these pitiful nations and wipe them off the earth, is by unjustly waging cruel and bloody wars. Then, when they have slain all those who fought for their lives, they enslave any survivors. With those infernal methods of tyranny, they debase and weaken countless numbers of those pitiful Indian nations. Their reasons for killing and destroying such an infinite number of souls is that the Christians have an ultimate aim, which is to acquire gold and to swell themselves to the riches in a very brief time, and thus rise to a high estate disproportionate to their merits." So, which side is he falling onto? Like, overall, how does he feel about the natives? You're going to type your response here. Is he pro-natives? Is he anti-natives? Does he think they're like savage, monstrous beasts that must be tamed? Or are they something else? And then you're going to explain the relationship Las Casas has to the idea of this black legend. Remember, the black legend is that the Spanish are bad news bears. So how does this relationship, how does he show this in his writing? And number 3 is list 3 ways that you think Las Casas would have benefit or would have to defend his beliefs. So knowing that he is Spanish, what are some ways he would have to defend his beliefs? But in response to that now, you should pause this video because I'm going to go back up here and we're going to read the other argument. All right, this is the other account. This is Sepúlveda. And he says, quote, "The Spanish have a perfect right to rule these barbarians of the New World and the adjacent islands, who in prudence, skill, virtue, and humanity are as inferior to the Spanish as children to adults or women to men, for there exists between the two as great a difference as between savage and cruel races, and the most merciful between the most intemperate and the moderate and temperate, and I might even say between apes and men." Yikes. He continues, "You surely do not expect me to recall at length the prudence and talents of the Spanish. And what can I say of the gentleness and humanity of our people, who even in battle, after having gained the victory, put forth their greatest effort and care to save the greatest possible numbers of the conquered and to protect them from the cruelty of their allies? Compare then these gifts of prudence, talent, magnanimity, temperance, humanity, and religion with those possessed with these half men, in whom you will barely find the vestiges of humanity, who not only do not possess any learning at all, but are not even literate or in possession of any monument to their history except for some obscure and vague remnances of several things put down in various paintings. Nor do they have written laws, but barbarian institutions and customs. Well then, if we are dealing with virtue, what temperance or mercy can you expect from men who are committed to all types of intemperance and base frivolity and eating human flesh?" So here again, what is the overall view of Sepúlveda on the natives? So how does he describe them? What does he describe them doing? How are they acting? What is his relationship with the idea of the white legend? So remember, white legend is like pro-Spanish. This definitely like, we're the good guys and we're here to help them, bring them culture and civilization. So what's his relationship with this idea of white legend? And then what are some ways he's going to have to defend his beliefs? So what does he believe and how might he defend them? Once you've done that, remember, you're going to decide which side is more accurate. I'm going to ask you to share in the chat what you choose and why. And then I want you to take the poll here. It'll take you to this little, I can show it to you real quick. So you'll go to this polls page, pull it up like this. Who do you think paints a more accurate picture? You're just going to vote Las Casas or Sepúlveda. And then I will reveal the results to you on Monday. The last thing you have to do here is go to Edulastic. It's a quick, short responses about the Black legend. Should not take you very long. Remember to turn in this document, click submit, take your Edulastic quiz, submit, and you are done for the day. Thanks. We'll see you back here next time. Bye.